A boy with no girlfriends, that sounds like a problem to most people, like something is wrong, like he's missing out. Society will tell him he's not attractive enough, not cool enough, not confident enough. Friends will joke, strangers will judge, but let me tell you something they don't say. Maybe this boy is not broken, maybe he's just building, maybe he's choosing something different. In a world where attention is the new currency, choosing focus makes you look poor. Everyone wants to be seen, liked, followed, desired, but there is strength in delay, there is power in waiting. Sometimes the one who walks alone walks faster. The one who doesn't chase relationships is chasing growth. The boy with no girlfriends isn't always empty. He might be full of dreams, full of goals, full of vision too big to be distracted. When you're young, people convince you that love, romance, and popularity are the signs of success. But those things fade. They don't build legacy. They don't guarantee peace. They don't teach discipline, but loneliness, that teaches you everything. It teaches you how to be enough for yourself, how to hear your own voice, how to fix your weaknesses without someone validating your strengths. Solitude isn't failure, it's preparation. That's a truth most people don't recognize until they've gone through seasons of being misunderstood, overlooked, or completely alone. In a world that thrives on noise, likes, followers, attention, and connection, being by yourself can feel like a curse. You start to wonder if something's wrong with you. Why aren't people reaching out? Why aren't you part of the crowd? Why does everyone seem to be building something together, while you're sitting in silence, with nothing but your own thoughts? But the reality is this: the greatest transformations happen in isolation. Before anything meaningful is built publicly, it is developed privately, and that time in solitude isn't a punishment, it's a setup. It's not failure, it's training. When you are alone, you are not being rejected. You are being refined. You are being shaped into someone who doesn't just survive this life, but leads it with clarity, direction, and strength. The world will try to convince you that value is in your ability to attract attention. But real value is in your ability to stand on your own without needing it. Solitude forces you to face yourself, no distractions, no outside noise to drown out what's happening inside. You get to ask the hard questions. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I truly want? What kind of person am I becoming? Most people never slow down enough to ask these questions. They're too busy chasing connection, validation, relationships, and applause. But when you're alone, you can't run from yourself, and that's exactly why solitude is powerful. It reveals, it clarifies, it strips away the layers of pretending and shows you what needs to be healed, what needs to be learned, and what needs to be built. Preparation happens in silence. Athletes train in empty gyms. Artists create in quiet studios. Leaders think in solitude before they ever speak in public. The boy with no girlfriends isn't behind, he might be ahead, because instead of pouring himself into relationship after relationship, he's investing in himself. He's learning discipline, he's learning focus. He's understanding that his time is valuable, and not everyone deserves access to it. And while the world may be laughing, wondering why he's alone, he's not wasting his energy trying to impress them. He's building, he's learning, he's growing, and that is what preparation looks like. Most people don't understand the purpose of preparation because they're too caught up in performance. But you can't perform well if you haven't prepared deeply. And solitude gives you the space to go deep, to work on your mindset, to build your skills, to develop your strength, and to create a solid foundation. Because when the opportunity comes, when the right relationship appears, when the dream job is offered, when the platform is ready, you won't need to scramble to be ready. You'll already be prepared because you used your solitude wisely. It's easy to feel like you're missing out when you're not surrounded by people, when your phone is quiet, when your weekends aren't filled with dates or parties or constant messages. But in that space of silence, you're gaining something more valuable than attention. You're gaining focus. You're gaining independence. You're gaining clarity on what matters to you, and not just what impresses others. You're becoming someone who's not easily shaken, not easily distracted, not easily manipulated by trends or opinions. And that strength is rare. That strength is priceless. Don't confuse being alone with being unloved, and don't confuse solitude with failure. The boy with no girlfriends isn't lacking, he's learning. He's learning how to be enough for himself before he ever tries to be something for someone else, because a relationship built out of loneliness usually becomes a relationship filled with dependency and fear. But a relationship built out of wholeness becomes a partnership rooted in strength and purpose. You have to become whole before you connect. You have to know yourself before you share yourself. So if you're in a season of being alone, embrace it. Use it, don't wish it away, build your foundation, develop your mind, focus on your dreams, heal your wounds, strengthen your discipline, grow your faith. Let your solitude be your advantage, not your excuse. Let it shape you into someone who walks with quiet confidence, someone who doesn't need the world's attention to know their worth, someone who doesn't settle for less just to feel something in the moment. Preparation may be invisible, but its results are undeniable. One day, the same people who overlooked you will ask how you did it, and you'll be able to say it started in silence. It started when no one was watching. It started when you were just a boy with no girlfriends, alone but not lost, alone but building something greater, alone but on purpose, and when your time comes, you won't need to prove anything. The preparation will show, the discipline will shine, the foundation will hold, because solitude didn't break you, it built you. Loneliness can teach you what attention never will. That's not something people tell you when you're feeling invisible, forgotten, or left out. Most of the time, loneliness is presented like a flaw, something you should escape from as quickly as possible. Get more friends, get into a relationship, stay busy, keep scrolling, do anything, just don't feel lonely. But loneliness, when you truly sit with it, when you don't run from it, has lessons that attention can never offer you. Attention is loud, fleeting, and addictive. It feels good in the moment, but it often teaches you how to perform, not how to grow. Loneliness, on the other hand, is quiet, confronting, and often painful, but it teaches you how to truly know yourself. When you're constantly surrounded by attention, it's easy to lose your identity in other people's opinions. You start adapting yourself to fit what others like. You change how you talk, how you dress, how you move, just to stay approved. It becomes less about who you are and more about who they want you to be. That's the danger of attention. It can shape you into a stranger to yourself. It tells you to chase approval instead of purpose. But when you're alone, when the spotlight is off, you're left with just you. No masks, no filters, just your thoughts, your truth, your inner dialogue, and in that silence, something powerful happens. You begin to hear your own voice. Loneliness forces you to stop performing and start reflecting. It shows you your real thoughts, your real fears, your real desires, the ones that get drowned out when you're surrounded by noise. You start to realize what truly matters to you, not just what's popular. You stop chasing what looks good and start building what feels right, and this self-awareness becomes your anchor, because when you finally step back into the world, when attention comes again, you're no longer swayed by it. You're grounded in something deeper. You don't need to be seen to feel valuable. You don't need to be liked to know your worth. People think attention is the cure to loneliness, but the truth is, you can be in a crowd and still feel completely alone. You can have hundreds of followers, constant texts, endless conversations, and still feel empty. That's because attention isn't connection. It's a surface interaction. It's a moment of recognition, not a lifetime of understanding. And if you depend on it too much, you end up hollow, chasing more and more of it just to fill a void that it was never meant to fill. Loneliness teaches you how to be full on your own, how to enjoy your own company, how to become your own friend before expecting anyone else to be. That kind of self-relationship is powerful, because now you don't enter relationships out of desperation. You enter them from overflow. You don't seek attention to feel better. You give attention to others because you already feel whole. That shift changes everything. It moves you from dependency to strength, from insecurity to confidence, from craving validation to walking in truth. The boy with no girlfriends may feel lonely sometimes, but if he leans into that loneliness instead of running from it, he'll come out of it stronger. He'll understand that he doesn't need someone else to make him feel alive. He'll realize that he doesn't need to be chosen to be valuable. He'll discover that his life has meaning whether or not someone is standing beside him, and that kind of strength can't be bought. It can't be taught in a classroom. It's forged in the quiet, in the stillness, in the moments when you feel like no one sees you. But you start seeing yourself. Attention is a spotlight, but it fades. Loneliness is a mirror, and if you look into it long enough, you'll find truth. You'll find clarity, you'll find healing, and most importantly, you'll find direction, because sometimes the reason you feel lonely isn't because something is wrong with you. It's because you're being pulled away from the crowd so you can grow into the person you were meant to be. Crowds are comfortable, but comfort rarely produces growth. Growth happens in isolation, in discomfort, in silence. So don't fear your loneliness, don't rush to cover it up, don't numb it with distractions. Listen to it, let it speak to you, let it show you the parts of yourself that need attention, not from others but from you. Let it reveal what you've been avoiding. Let it help you reset your priorities, your mindset, your habits. And when you come out of that season when you're no longer lonely, not because people showed up, but because you showed up for yourself, you'll be unshakable. The attention you get won't change you. The silence you face in the future won't scare you. You'll walk with a quiet kind of power that doesn't need to be loud to be real. Loneliness, though painful, is not your enemy. It's a teacher, and its lessons, if you're brave enough to receive them, will prepare you for a life far more powerful than the shallow satisfaction of being noticed. It will prepare you for a life of purpose, peace, and true self-respect. Would you like the next keynote explained in this same format? True value is built in silence, not in validation. That's a lesson that doesn't come quickly, and it definitely doesn't come from applause. It comes from long hours alone. It comes from putting in effort when no one is clapping. It comes from making decisions that no one sees, sacrifices that no one acknowledges, and progress that no one celebrates. In a world that constantly pushes people to seek attention, recognition, likes, shares, and followers, it takes strength to build without an audience, but that's where real value is born, in the quiet. When you're not being watched, you're free from the pressure to impress. You're not chasing trends. You're not adjusting who you are just to be seen. You're not cutting corners so you can show something off too soon. In silence, your only competition is yourself. Your only standard is excellence, and your only motivation is becoming better, not being noticed. That's where the most powerful growth happens. Not because someone is watching, but because you care enough to build something real. People confuse popularity with progress. They think that if people are talking about you, you must be doing something right. But noise doesn't equal value. Sometimes the most successful people are still invisible to the crowd. Not because they're behind, but because they're building something deep, something lasting, something that doesn't need constant attention to stay alive. Validation is addictive. It gives you a short-term high. But it can also trap you. Once you start needing it, you stop doing things for the right reasons. You start performing instead of growing. You start playing it safe, doing only what will get applause, not what will bring real improvement. But silence humbles you. It keeps your ego in check. It reminds you that value isn't about being seen, it's about being solid. It's about working on your character, your habits, your resilience. It's about mastering your emotions, sharpening your skills, staying consistent even when no one is cheering you on. That kind of value can't be taken away by someone else's opinion. It doesn't disappear when people stop paying attention. It lasts because it was built for real, not for show. A boy with no girlfriends might be overlooked in the eyes of others. They may assume he has no value, no charm, no appeal. But they don't see the inner work he's doing. They don't see the discipline he's developing, the mindset he's strengthening, the goals he's chasing without distraction. He might not be getting validation, but he is building value. And that value will outlast every compliment, every flirtation, every temporary relationship that could have pulled him away from his path. In silence, you're not proving anything to anyone. You're proving everything to yourself. You're showing yourself that you can stay committed, that you can grow without being pushed, that you can believe in your future even when others don't understand it. That's the difference between validation and value. Validation needs an audience. Value stands alone. When you build yourself in silence, what you create becomes unshakable, because it wasn't made to impress. It was made to endure. It wasn't built on popularity. It was built on purpose. You're not trying to be known. You're trying to be effective. You're not rushing to be seen. You're taking your time to become strong, and that strength will carry you when the spotlight moves on, when the trends change, when people forget. Eventually, your value will speak louder than any words ever could. People will start to notice, not because you demanded attention, but because you earned respect. You'll stand out, not because you tried to be different, but because you stayed true when others compromised. You won't have to explain yourself. Your results, your confidence, your presence will do that for you, but it all begins in silence, in the decision to keep working even when no one is watching, in the willingness to delay recognition so you can build something real. Don't fear being unnoticed, fear being fake. Don't chase validation, chase growth. Build a life that doesn't crumble when no one is clapping. Build a mindset that doesn't depend on compliments. Build a character that speaks for itself. Because in the end, validation fades. The same people who cheer for you today might forget you tomorrow, but the value you build in silence, that stays, that becomes your foundation, that becomes your power. So be okay with being quiet. Be okay with not being in the spotlight. Be okay with being underestimated, because every minute you spend building in silence is an investment. And one day, when the time is right, the world will see what silence created. And they won't see just someone who's successful. They'll see someone solid, someone unshakable, someone who didn't need to be seen to be valuable, because they were valuable all along. Being alone gives you time to grow without distraction. That's something most people don't appreciate until they've gone through it. At first, being alone feels uncomfortable. It feels like something is missing. You look around and everyone else seems connected in relationships, constantly surrounded by company and comfort. And then there's you, quiet, solo, wondering if you're falling behind or being left out. But what you may not realize in those moments is that your solitude is an opportunity. It's a rare, powerful space where you can grow in ways that are impossible when you're constantly surrounded by noise. Distraction doesn't always come from failure or crisis. Often, distraction wears the mask of comfort. It comes in the form of people, conversations, entertainment, and even relationships that seem good but pull you away from your real focus. When you're always in the middle of something, texting someone, meeting up, explaining yourself, adjusting to someone else's needs, you rarely stop to ask what you really want. You're always responding to life instead of designing it. That's why being alone is so valuable. It removes the constant reactions and gives you space to choose, to build, and to understand your own direction. A boy with no girlfriends might feel like he's missing something. He might look around and see people pairing off, getting attention, being loved. But what he might actually be gaining is the head start. Because while others are busy managing emotional ups and downs, trying to keep someone else happy, or trying to fit into a relationship they weren't ready for, he's focused. He has time to look inward, to improve his mind, to strengthen his body, to explore his purpose. He isn't being pulled in different emotional directions. He's rooted. That rooting becomes growth, and that growth becomes momentum. Growth in solitude is unique because it's honest. When no one is watching, there's no need to perform. There's no pressure to impress. You're left with the raw version of yourself. That's where the real work begins. You start asking questions that matter. Am I disciplined? Am I lazy? Am I chasing dreams or just distractions? You start discovering what drives you, what excites you, and what slows you down. You begin to learn how to solve your own problems without leaning on someone else. That kind of growth is rare because it's self-generated, and anything that comes from within is far more powerful than anything handed to you from outside. Being alone gives you the time to master your habits. It gives you uninterrupted space to build routines, to read more, to train harder, to think deeper. When you're not constantly worried about someone else's expectations or reactions, your mind becomes clearer. You're not filtering your words. You're speaking truth to yourself. You're not playing a role. You're becoming real. That kind of clarity is priceless because once you have it, it influences everything. Your decisions get better. Your standards rise, your focus sharpens, and the distractions that used to pull you off course no longer tempt you the same way. This growth doesn't come with applause. There are no cheering crowds when you decide to wake up early and improve your mindset. No one celebrates you when you skip the party to work on your goals. But that's exactly what makes it powerful. Growth that happens in private is the foundation for impact in public. The world sees the success, but it doesn't see the silence. It sees the strength, but not the solitude that built it. That's why people who grow alone are often misunderstood. They're not seeking validation, they're seeking transformation. The boy with no girlfriends isn't behind. He's preparing, he's learning how to be whole on his own, he's developing the discipline that will one day make him a better partner, a stronger leader, a more focused creator. He's not empty, he's being filled with vision. And while others are trying to fix themselves in the context of relationships, he's fixing himself at the root. That's why his growth will be more stable, more lasting, and more impactful. People who fear being alone often jump into relationships not out of readiness, but out of need. They want company to distract them from themselves. They want someone else to make them feel better. But growth doesn't work that way. No one can grow for you. No one can give you clarity. That comes from within. And when you've spent enough time with yourself, you start to see that you weren't alone because you were rejected. You were alone because you were being refined. Every moment you spend in focused solitude is a step toward your future. Every day you choose growth over distraction is a deposit into your destiny. And the best part is, when you eventually do connect with someone, you'll come to them not as a half looking for another half, you'll come as a whole. You'll bring strength, peace, focus, and self-respect. You'll attract not just any relationship, but the right relationship, one that aligns with the person you've become. So don't fear being alone. Don't rush to escape it. Let it work on you. Let it shape you. Let it strip away the distractions and reveal your real self. Because in the stillness of solitude, growth happens. And that growth will take you further than any validation ever could. Would you like the final keynote explained next? The right partner comes when you're already whole. That truth stands quietly against everything popular culture promotes. Movies, songs, and social media often paint the picture of two people who are broken and incomplete finding completion in each other, as if love is a cure for emptiness. But real relationships aren't about two halves making a whole. They are about two complete people joining together to build something even greater. When you are whole, you don't seek someone to fix you, complete you, or validate you. You seek someone to grow with, not to depend on. Wholeness means you've done the internal work. It means you've faced your weaknesses, recognized your strengths, and taken responsibility for your path. You know who you are and who you're becoming. You're not perfect, but you're aware. You're not trying to fill a void through someone else. You've already filled it with purpose, discipline, and clarity. That's what makes a relationship strong, not just chemistry, but two individuals who are already grounded on their own. Without that foundation, even the best relationship can collapse under the pressure of unmet needs and unspoken wounds. The boy with no girlfriends might be misunderstood. People may assume he's missing something, lacking something, or failing in some way. But what they don't see is that he might be doing what most won't, becoming whole. While others rush into relationships to feel significant, he's learning how to be significant alone. While others are chasing attention, he's building purpose. While others are practicing attraction, he's practicing growth. That internal development sets the stage for something real when the time is right. When you are not whole, you bring your unhealed pain into the relationship. You place the weight of your insecurities on the other person. You ask for constant reassurance. You become overly dependent on their presence, their words, their approval. That kind of relationship becomes heavy, draining, and unstable. It's built on emotional survival, not on love. But when you are whole, you don't bring burdens. You bring blessings. You bring peace, not pressure. You bring focus, not confusion. You bring self-respect, not desperation. You don't need saving, and you're not trying to save anyone either. You're simply looking to connect and grow from a place of strength. The right partner won't fix you, and they shouldn't have to. They're not your therapist, your parent, or your escape. They are someone walking beside you, not someone dragging you forward. When you know your value, you don't settle for someone just because they give you attention. You look deeper. You ask better questions. Are they growing? Are they focused? Do they bring peace or chaos? Do they lift or drain? And most importantly, can you build a life with them? Or would you just be surviving together, clinging to each other out of fear? When you're whole, you see love as a choice, not a necessity. You're not desperate to find someone. You're patient. You're not controlled by loneliness. You're led by purpose. You're not filling your life with people just to avoid the silence. You're letting the silence shape your standards. That patience makes you powerful because now you're not in a hurry. You're not choosing out of impulse. You're choosing out of clarity. A whole person respects themselves enough to wait. They understand that waiting isn't about wasting time. It's about preparing for the right time. And when the right person comes, it won't be about completion. It will be about multiplication. Two people who know who they are, working together to become even more. That's real strength. That's real love. Being single doesn't mean being incomplete. It means being aware. It means being in training. It means you're becoming the kind of person you would want to be with. Too many people focus on finding the right person, but forget to become the right person. They make lists of what they want in a partner, but never become what they demand. But the boy with no girlfriends, he might be building himself into that person, quietly, silently, without anyone clapping for him, without anyone noticing. But when the time comes and he finally meets someone aligned with his purpose, he'll be ready, not because he was lucky, but because he was prepared. Preparation is what separates temporary relationships from lasting ones. And wholeness is the foundation of that preparation. When you are whole, love doesn't make you lose yourself. It helps you expand. You don't disappear into the relationship. You grow inside it because you brought your full self to the table and the other person did too. That kind of connection doesn't fade easily. It doesn't crumble under pressure. It has roots. So if you're still single, still alone, still working, it's okay. It's better than okay. It's powerful. Every hour you spend building your vision, understanding your emotions, developing your mindset, and raising your standards is a step toward a future relationship that won't just feel good. It will be right. A relationship that won't be based on need but on purpose. The right partner comes when you're already whole. Until then, your job is to become the best version of yourself, not for anyone else, not to prove anything, but because that's who you were meant to be. And when wholeness meets wholeness, the result is not dependency. The result is destiny. Would you like a summary of all 5 points combined for a closing message or video script? You don't need to be chosen to be valuable. That simple truth challenges one of the deepest fears many people carry. The fear of not being picked, not being noticed, not being wanted. From an early age, most are conditioned to believe that their worth is confirmed through external validation, whether it's being chosen for a team, a job, a relationship, or a spotlight. When someone is picked, we celebrate them. When someone is overlooked, we assume they must not be good enough. But this mindset is flawed, and it's dangerous. It attaches your identity to someone else's decision, when in reality, your value has nothing to do with being chosen and everything to do with being. When someone walks alone, especially when they're young and still discovering themselves, it's easy for them to internalize that loneliness as a sign of failure. If no one is dating them, they must not be desirable. If no one's calling, they must not be interesting. If they're not the first pick, maybe they never will be, but that's the voice of insecurity, not truth. The boy with no girlfriends isn't invisible because he lacks value. He may simply not be what people are looking for right now, or more importantly, he may be protecting his own journey by not getting tangled in relationships that would only distract him. He's not unwanted, he's undiscovered, or even intentionally distant because he's working on something deeper than attention. Value doesn't increase because someone notices it. Gold doesn't become more valuable because it's found. It was already precious before anyone ever saw it. The discovery doesn't define its worth. The recognition only confirms what was always there. That's how you must see yourself. Whether or not someone chooses you romantically, professionally, or socially doesn't change your inherent value. You are already enough. Your intelligence, creativity, vision, and potential are real, even if they go unacknowledged for a season. Being unchosen doesn't mean being unworthy. Sometimes the reason you're not being picked is because your purpose is too big for the rooms you're trying to enter. You don't fit because you were never meant to. You're being protected from distractions that would slow you down or compromise your values. The pain of being overlooked might sting, but it's not rejection. It's redirection. You're not being pushed aside, you're being guided forward. You're being asked to build something within that doesn't depend on others to survive. When you base your identity on being chosen, you give others the power to define your worth. That creates a fragile sense of self. One compliment lifts you, one rejection destroys you, one relationship makes you feel alive, one breakup makes you feel worthless. That's a dangerous way to live because it means you never truly own who you are. You're always waiting for someone else to confirm that you matter. But when you understand that you are valuable just by existing, just by waking up with breath in your lungs and purpose in your heart, you become unshakable. Your confidence isn't built on applause. It's built on truth. A person who knows their value doesn't need to be picked. They walk their path anyway. They show up. They work hard. They love themselves. They push through challenges. And they build their life whether or not anyone is watching. And over time, the world begins to see what they bring to the table. Not because they begged for attention, but because real value always rises. It can't stay hidden forever. It becomes undeniable. But even if the world never claps, that person still wins, because their peace, their focus, and their identity are intact. The boy with no girlfriends might be the one who leads later, the one who others will look back on and realize had something special all along. But the difference is, he didn't wait to be chosen to start growing. He didn't pause his development hoping someone would notice him. He built quietly. He trained in silence. He made himself ready not for someone else, but for his own calling. And when the time comes, he won't need to adjust who he is to fit into someone else's life, because he already knows his worth. Choosing not to be chosen is sometimes the strongest move you can make. It says, I'm not willing to lower my standards just to feel wanted. It says, I'd rather walk alone than lose myself trying to be accepted. That kind of strength is rare, and that kind of value doesn't fade. When you have that, you attract relationships that are aligned with truth, not just convenience. You draw in people who see you for who you really are, not for what you perform to be. So if you're walking through life and no one's picking you, that's not a reason to doubt yourself. It's a reason to double down on your vision. To keep working, keep believing, keep refining your character. The spotlight may not be on you now, but that doesn't mean your story isn't important. The recognition may not have come yet, but your value is already there. You don't need permission to believe in yourself. You don't need approval to build your life. One day, those who overlooked you will wonder how you became who you are. They'll ask how you got so focused, so disciplined, so confident. And you'll be able to say, because I didn't wait to be chosen, I chose myself. That's not arrogance, that's ownership. That's living from a place of truth, and that's what separates those who lead from those who follow. Would you like to turn this final point into a closing summary or script for video narration?